We were a bunch of women who came from all over the world to Seoul in 1988 to teach English. Korea was transforming and opening up its doors to the West. The 1988 Olympics really represented South Korea's debut on the world stage. We were helping teach English to Koreans so that they were prepared for the new world coming into their peninsula. It was an interesting time. It was a dangerous time. There was Sandra. She took me under her wing, and we definitely bonded. Kathy Patrick, she was the head teacher, kind of our boss. I was definitely a party girl. And then there was Carolyn Abel. She was sparkly. She was beautiful, really funny. She had a wicked sense of humor.
My sister Carolyn was an adventurer. People did notice her. She was vibrant. She attracted people's attention.
She had become friends with all of us, but particularly with Kathy. They were like sisters. Life that year was great. We had so much fun. We worked hard, we played hard, we partied at night. Everything was going so well. All our fun came to a sudden crashing halt when one of us, Carolyn Abel, was murdered.
It was absolutely horrible, brutal, violent. There were multiple stab wounds. I can't even begin to describe what that loss has been, like somebody had detonated a nuclear bomb in the middle of the family.
So whoever killed Carolyn is still out there.
We're at Newark Airport, about to head overseas to try to find some answers. What happened to this woman? Carolyn Abel. And where did Carolyn live?
Carolyn lived over there.
Out in this direction here?
Out in this direction. I've been asking questions for 30 years. What happened the night that Carolyn was killed?
Everybody loved Carolyn.
Who was in the room? Who put the knife in?
Why should anybody be able to get away with murdering somebody and never face charges?
More than 30 years later, our investigation has brought us here to a university in Bellingham, Washington, where Carolyn Abel's alleged killer works. We just got word. We're going to make our move now. Okay, this is the building.
We were so sure the enemy was on the outside, it never occurred to any of us that the killer was among us.
"48 hours, out of reach," reported by Peter Van Sant.
For writer and author Nancy Burkaw, flying to South Korea in the winter of 2018 reopened a painful chapter in her life, one of murder, loss, and fear.
Not only were we devastated about the loss of Carolyn, we of course wondered who's next.
Back in Seoul, where should be our first stop?
Well, I think we should go to the school, to ELS, where we all taught.
ELS is the English language school,
This is the neighborhood.
where Nancy met fellow teacher Carolyn Abel back in 1988.
This is the school, and the world was never the same for any of us who were in that building together on December 20th.
The events of that day have haunted Carolyn Abel's family for more than 30 years.
And the damage that's been done was just so devastating.
Wanda Abel remembers her younger sister Carolyn as the center of attention from an early age.
This is our very first passport photo. Carolyn is on the right.
This is a passport picture with 3 people in it.
Yeah. She was the youngest and the cutest and the baby of the family.
The youngest daughter of professors Dr. Francis and Evelyn Abel, Carolyn had a love of photography and a wanderlust that took her around the world.
My mother said in retrospect, it was almost like she knew she didn't have a lot of time. She wanted to do as much as she could in the time she had and not waste a second.
By the time she graduated from college, Carolyn had already lived in Pakistan, East Asia, Germany, and France.
She would get restless. She didn't like being just in one place for too long.
That restlessness compelled Carolyn to join the Peace Corps after college, serving in Nepal, where she taught English. In 1987, Carolyn took another teaching job in Japan, where she met this man, Tomoyuki Ayagaki, a customs agent.
She's always cheerful.
Did she make you laugh?
Yes, she's funny.
Carolyn and Tomoyuki began a relationship that very quickly became serious.
Did you fall in love with Carolyn?
Oh, yes.
Tomoyuki did propose to Carolyn.
And what was her answer, do you know?
Carolyn was trying to decide whether she would be happy being married and staying in Japan.
While contemplating a future life with Tomoyuki, Carolyn received an offer for another job, 330 miles away and across the Sea of Japan.
And in the fall of 1988, Carolyn set out on her next great adventure in life, teaching English here in Seoul, South Korea.
And from the minute she walked into the staff room, she was just a breath of fresh air. She sort of looked a little bit like Farrah Fawcett.
That's where Carolyn quickly fell in with Nancy Burkaw and the other American teachers at school, like Sandra Ames, who requested that we alter her current appearance for this interview.
She was making her students laugh and sing and have fun learning English.
And Tamara Doak.
She made friends with everybody. She was very, very friendly.
So this is Kathy.
Carolyn also hit it off with the head teacher at the school, Kathy Patrick.
Carolyn and Kathy Patrick were extremely good friends. They were considered, if I can use a modern term, besties.
The women taught, traveled, and partied together.
Expat life in Seoul in the late 80s was wild. And one place where our worlds collided, and that was Itaewon, the red light district. This is where Kathy and Sandra and Carolyn and Tamara and I would come. So what we did is we danced and drank like crazy people.
On the weekend of December 17th, 1988, just 3 days before the murder, Sandra, Kathy, Carolyn, and some Korean students took a trip into the mountains. Carolyn took these pictures.
We spent the time looking at temples and hiking, and then partying in the evenings.
Classes were winding down for the winter break. Tomoyuki was getting ready to fly to Seoul, hoping to get an answer to his marriage proposal. On Tuesday, December 20th, Carolyn never made it to work.
And a lot of us missed work on occasion for various reasons.
I was not at that point concerned, but Kathy was concerned about Carolyn because she couldn't get her on the phone.
Kathy was asking all of us, had any of us heard from Carolyn? No.
Kathy was very upset, convinced that something had happened to Carolyn.
And I said, well, maybe we should go over there.
At that point, some of our students drove us to Carolyn's apartment We went into the apartment, and Kathy discovered the body. She was murdered brutally and horribly and in a way that she did not deserve.
And we were just all in shock, just trying to figure out what happened.
I think we all just felt like, what the hell's gonna happen now? Are we in danger? How will Sandra and Kathy ever recover from the shock of seeing their dead friend? Where do we go from here?
Carolyn's apartment was on the 15th floor. So here we are. I'm Peter Van Sant, and I'm a reporter for CBS News, and we are working on a story about a woman named Carolyn who used to live in your apartment. And we came by to ask you if we may have permission to come into your apartment to take some video pictures.
Early in the afternoon on December 20th, 1988, colleagues and students of Carolyn Abels came to this apartment building after she failed to show up for work.
Kathy, Sandra, and 3 Korean men walked down this hallway. Surprisingly, the door was unlocked, and they went inside.
Who was the first person into the apartment?
Kathy. She did a beeline right to the bedroom. Kathy came out of the room and said, "Carolyn's dead. We need to call an ambulance. No, we need to call the cops." And she didn't want me to go look at the body.
So we have our shoes off.
And we're ready to check out the murder scene. This is the room where Carolyn Abel left this world, and she put up a fight in her last minutes of life. She had a number of defensive wounds, and she took the brunt of it. More than 30 stab wounds, including a cut up from ear to ear on the throat, and there was blood everywhere in here, on the walls, on the bed. It was a mess.
Korean police and press swarmed the apartment, which had been ransacked. And within hours,
미국인 여자 학원 강사가 자신의 아파트에서
the murder led the national news in South Korea.
현대 경찰이 수사에
And
나섰습니다.
I remember watching the news and the cameras panning around the room, and they kept going in on this teddy bear. And it was really horrible.
The impact of seeing her body wheeled out in a body bag really made it quite real. It wasn't a dream. It became the nightmare that it really still is to this day.
How did you get the news of what had happened to your sister?
I was at home and my mother called me. She told me that Carolyn had been murdered, and I screamed. We were just crying, trying to figure out, I mean, how could this happen? Who would want to do this to her? Everybody loved Carolyn. Why?
With the killer still out there, Carolyn's friends wondered, could they be next?
We were all certain that perhaps a Korean had probably killed her. If a Korean hated an American this much, was he coming after the rest of us?
The shocked friends turned their attention to Kathy and Sandra, who had discovered Carolyn's body.
They seemed horrified. I was so concerned about them.
They were hysterical. It seemed as if they were having a nervous breakdown.
Days later, Kathy Patrick led a memorial service for Carolyn.
I think it was quite moving.
Even now thinking about it, you tear up a bit.
Kathy also wrote Carolyn's parents, Wanda, still has that letter.
Please know that I love Carolyn as a sister and a dear friend. My roommate and I are the two people who found Carolyn in her apartment. Let me know if I can tell you anything.
In Japan, Tomoyuki learned the love of his life was gone. But he decided to make his trip to South Korea anyway. He stayed with Kathy and Sandra.
Even today, after all these years, 30 years, this still gets to you, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sorry.
In Seoul, rumors were swirling, and South Korean police cast a wide net.
We were all suspects. Every single teacher on the staff was interviewed. You know, the Korean police were in our faces, just like, where were you? How did you know Carolyn? What's your story? Why are you here? Why did you come to our country? Are you secretly FBI? We just kept thinking, why are you asking me this? Get out there and find the real killer.
Then Nancy took a phone call in the teacher's lounge that moved the investigation in a whole new direction.
Sounded like a Korean woman. And then very quickly she said, I know who killed Carolyn. I said, what? She said, an American military officer.
Nancy told the South Korean police, who brought in detectives from the U.S. Army.
And very quickly thereafter, John Boatwright walked in.
John Boatwright was a legendary chief of detectives for the Army's Criminal Investigation Division in South Korea. He quickly eliminated the U.S. military officer who was pegged as a suspect by his ex-girlfriend.
He did not know Carolyn Abel, and it appeared that she was just trying to get revenge on him for the bad breakup.
3 weeks after the murder, an autopsy revealed the cause of death, a stab wound to her right lung. The report also confirmed her throat was cut.
In my opinion, her throat was cut after she was deceased.
After? How unusual is that, based on your experience?
Very unusual.
So what did happen at Carolyn's apartment?
And I was convinced that whoever did this probably knew Carolyn.
Why?
Because there was no signs of forced entry into the apartment. It appeared that whoever was in that apartment knew her.
There were 2 coffee cups found in the room. If there's a break-in, generally a criminal would not say, hey, let's have a cup of coffee before I ransack your place and attack you.
That certainly would not be normal.
Like his South Korean counterparts, Boatwright decided to question Carolyn's colleagues, who told him,
you really should look at the 2 girls who found the body.
Those 2 women, Sandra Ames and Kathy Patrick.
We assumed that a Korean had probably killed her, but little did we know that the enemy was inside that staff room with us.
Just weeks after Carolyn Abel's murder, the investigation by John Boatwright was focusing on the 2 friends who had discovered her body, roommates Kathy Patrick and Sandra Ames.
And do you get a chance to question each of them?
No. Kathy Patrick had already gotten on a plane and left Korea.
We had encouraged her to go. She must have lost 15 pounds. She just looked like someone who was about to break.
Kathy returned home to Washington State, but Sandra was still in Seoul.
I took a statement from her, and then I asked her, did you kill Carolyn? And she just sort of sat there and stared at me.
She's just staring at you.
That's correct. After about 30 seconds, she was very quiet, but she said, no, that was just not normal.
Sandra maintains she had nothing to hide, so 2 months after the murder, she waived her right to an attorney and agreed to take a lie detector test.
I remember being hooked up to all the wires in a darkened room.
He asked her, "Do you know where the murder weapon is?" And she said no. And she really peeked out on that, indicating that she was not being truthful.
I said, "I'm not lying, I'm telling the truth." So we took it again with the same results. And at that point, I said, "Let me tell you about this picture in my head." The picture was a dark shape on a bed covered in a quilt that I knew was a body.
Sandra described that picture in her head as a fragmented memory of that night. As Boatwright asked her for more details, she told a new story. It was nothing short of a bombshell.
The story began with being in bed and having Kathy at the door of my room and coming in and saying, "I think I killed Carolyn." "What with?" I asked. And she said, "A knife." "Where is it?" I asked. "In the kitchen sink."
Sandra said she was in disbelief and asked Kathy to take her to Carolyn's apartment, where she saw her friend's brutalized body on the bed, covered in blood.
To the best of my recollection, we sat in the living room at Carolyn's apartment, and she convinced me, manipulated me, to help her make it look like a robbery.
Though she didn't mention it when we spoke with her, Boatwright says that during their interview, Sandra made another statement about her own actions that night after she walked in and saw Carolyn's body.
She says, "I touched her arm and it was warm." And at that point, I realized that she may be still alive and that she might testify against Kathy. And so I went to the kitchen, got a knife, and came back, and I cut her throat to make sure she was dead.
Remember, Boatwright believed that wound was inflicted after Carolyn was already dead, from the stab wound to the lung.
So what Sandra is telling you is actually forensically matching up what was done to Carolyn's body.
Absolutely.
But Sandra's story quickly changed. In these official statements, Sandra wrote that Kathy had admitted to cutting Carolyn's throat. And today, Sandra claims that the only reason she made that admission was due to false memories implanted by investigators. But she doesn't deny going to the crime scene or handling the murder weapon.
You did tell authorities at the time that you cleaned a bloody knife.
I did, and that was because I remembered putting the clean knife into the dish rack. Kathy had said that that was the knife she had used to kill Carolyn.
It may seem far-fetched, but Sandra claims those memories had been suppressed deep in her subconscious mind until the interview with Boatwright.
So are you telling me the truth?
Yes. Yes.
Because some of these lapses in memory are kind of convenient.
Oh, they're very convenient, but no, this is the truth as I lived it.
Though Sandra's story was bizarre, to say the least, investigators believed the core details, which never changed, that Kathy woke her up and confessed to killing Carolyn, and the two of them staged it to look like a robbery. And the evidence they collected appeared to back that up.
Each time that she was interviewed later, she kept changing the facts to limit her involvement in the murder. But she never denied that Kathy did the murder, and she never denied that she was present just after the murder.
Who do you believe held the knife and murdered Carolyn Abel?
Kathy Patrick.
After her confession, Sandra Ames was kept in house arrest here in Seoul. 5 months later, in July of 1989, she pleaded guilty to harboring a criminal and suppressing evidence.
I was fingerprinted, photographed, and put into a holding cell.
But why would Kathy want Carolyn dead? Investigators uncovered a secret which provided a potential motive.
Kathy really fell for Carolyn.
Tamara Doak was one of the few teachers who knew Kathy was gay.
And she would confide in me, you know, I really like this woman. I think she's into me. And I'm like, Kathy, I don't really think she's gay. You should really be careful.
Kathy told me that she was in love with Carolyn and that her feelings were not necessarily returned.
I believe that Kathy and Carolyn were alone during that initial attack. The thing that makes most sense to me is Kathy tried to kiss Carolyn, and Carolyn pushed her away and rejected that kiss. I think Kathy was so enraged and angry that she lost control.
Kathy Patrick was now the prime suspect in Carolyn Abel's murder. A murder warrant for her arrest was issued in South Korea. Back in Japan, Carolyn's boyfriend, Tomoyuki, heard the news.
You stayed with Kathy at her apartment.
Yes. ものすごい、ショックで、そこに2晩も泊まらせてもらった自分ってちょっと情けなくてですね。
For her part in the alleged crimes, Sandra was sentenced to 1 year in prison. Meanwhile, Kathy Patrick was back at home in Washington state. The South Korean government made diplomatic requests to return her to Seoul from the U.S. to face a murder charge, but hit a wall.
There was no extradition treaty with Korea at the time.
Once she left, they couldn't get her back there.
Why couldn't we see through Kathy and Sandra? It's unreal. You know, so in one fell swoop, you learn that your friends are involved in this crime and that the one who might have been the killer is free because of this loophole in American law.
In the States, Carolyn's family pushed for an arrest.
The U.S. attorney in Washington state said, no, you can't arrest her because she hasn't committed a crime in the United States. There was no jurisdiction to arrest her for murder, and that's what pushed my family to say, wait a minute, this isn't right.
But American authorities weren't finished with Kathy Patrick, and soon they would come face to face with her.
Did you ask Kathy Patrick flat out, did you murder Carolyn Abel?
Yes, I did.
So this is one of the last pictures taken of her alive.
Right, right.
In the days after Carolyn's murder, Wanda worked overtime during the holidays to bring her home.
We got her back in time to hold the funeral on New Year's Eve.
Gone, but never forgotten. Wanda Abel and her family were pushing the government to pursue a case against Kathy Patrick, who had left South Korea just weeks after Carolyn's murder.
So do you believe this sudden move from South Korea to the United States was in a way an expression of consciousness of guilt?
Yes. Well, Kathy knew she did it, so she had to suspect that sooner or later somebody was going to put it together or that Sandra was going to crack and tell on her. So she spent as little time in South Korea as possible after she killed Carolyn.
With Kathy Patrick back in Washington state, Carolyn Abel's family was fearful they could be targeted.
I was worried that Kathy would try to kill us because Kathy wrote these letters to my parents that she was her great friend and that, you know, she'd love to meet them. And I was working through my mind, what would I do if I saw this person or if she showed up at my house.
Despite the lack of an extradition treaty, there was still that South Korean arrest warrant for murder for Kathy Patrick.
My name is Stephen Schroeder. I'm a retired assistant United States attorney, and I worked in Seattle.
They also asked the U.S. government for help.
What did the South Koreans want you to do?
Among other things, they wanted me to take a deposition of Kathy Patrick and ask her some questions about the murder that occurred in Seoul.
It was 1989 when Schroeder was assigned the case with John Boatwright and FBI agents. Along with her lawyer, Kathy Patrick willingly sat down with them to be questioned.
Did you ask Kathy Patrick flat out, did you murder Carolyn Abel?
Yes, I did.
What did she say?
She said she did not.
And did you present her with what her roommate had said?
Yes.
And what did she say about that?
Simply, it wasn't true.
And did Kathy try to shift blame at all? Did she point the finger of suspicion at all at Sandra?
Not with me.
Kathy also denied under oath that she was in love with Carolyn Abel.
Do you believe Kathy Patrick lied to you?
There was enough indication of that to justify us doing further investigation, yes. My strategy at that point was, if the Koreans did not prosecute her, then to look whether we could for basically false statements, perjury, obstruction of justice.
Even though lie detector tests are inadmissible in federal court, they are a tool used by investigators to confirm deception. Kathy Patrick willingly agreed to take one and answer questions about Carolyn's murder.
The examiner concluded that she was deceptive.
And deception is?
Lying.
Lying. After the polygraph, Kathy Patrick, whom South Korea still wanted to arrest for murder, was free to leave.
Is that frustrating?
It was very frustrating.
Compounding Carolyn's family's grief, Sandra Ames was released from a South Korean prison after serving just 6 months of her one-year sentence. And it wasn't because of good behavior.
Is it true you got out of prison because someone bribed a judge to get you out?
Yep, absolutely.
We just couldn't believe it. I mean, 6 months for assisting a murderer and covering up the crime scene and making it look like a burglary and not even telling anybody, not talking. I don't understand.
When Sandra returned to the United States, she was recruited by the FBI to go undercover and secretly record a reunion with Kathy Patrick in hopes of eliciting a confession.
I didn't even call. I simply went to her house.
And what does she say to you? Sandra, what are you doing here?
Probably. And I think I said something along the lines of, how could you have done that? How could you have killed Carolyn? And she said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Without incriminating statements from Kathy, the feds were not able to press charges for perjury.
As long as she stays within these borders, she's a free woman.
That's correct, yes.
And with no extradition treaty in place, South Korean authorities put the murder case on the shelf.
I think the South Koreans were taking the attitude that this is a U.S. problem. It's 2 U.S. citizens.
Meanwhile, Carolyn's family carried on with their quest for justice.
My dad contacting every congressman, every senator. He wrote to news stations, 60 Minutes, because he was hoping that if that happened, then there would be more publicity, more pressure.
While Kathy Patrick carried on with her life.
If it is true that Kathy Patrick murdered your sister, is she a danger today to the public?
I think she probably is. And who knows what would trigger that kind of violence again.
Kathy declined to meet with 48 Hours, So we went to her in Bellingham, Washington, where today she's a counselor at Western Washington University.
Okay, guys. We're going to make our move now to Kathy Patrick's office. Hi, Kathy Patrick. Hi, Peter Van Sant with CBS News.
My sister never got to live her life. Why does Kathy get to live a full life?
For almost 3 decades, Kathy Patrick has lived a quiet life in Bellingham, Washington, north of Seattle, where for the last 18 years, she has worked as a student advisor at Western Washington University.
Okay, this is the building. Okay, so when we get in, let's move quickly to her office.
Kathy turned down our request for an interview, saying Carolyn's murder was too painful to talk about. But on this day, her past was fast approaching.
Hi, Kathy Patrick. Peter Van Sant with CBS News. There are investigators from 2 countries that have now are certain that you murdered Carolyn Abel. What do you have to say?
I have to say that I'm innocent and that I don't know what happened after I found Carolyn's body.
These are Kathy Patrick's first public words on the murder of Carolyn Abel in 30 years.
Now, your roommate says just the opposite, that you confessed to her and that the 2 of you then went back over to Carolyn's apartment and staged the scene as a burglary.
No.
That never happened.
No.
So she's lying to us when she told us that?
I believe she is.
You flunked a polygraph test. How did that happen?
I don't know the science of polygraphs. I'm not surprised that I would flunk it in retrospect, given how clammy and nervous I am right now, and I'm even shaking. It was a frightening experience, and I absolutely do not know what happened before I went to her apartment and found her body. Please.
It has been 30 years since this. Isn't it time to come clean about this? Investigators are certain that you committed this murder.
They are wrong.
If you didn't, who did?
I believe it must have been Ames.
Sandra Ames. She says you did it, and you had her go over and help manipulate the room to make it look like a burglary.
That's not true.
Another circumstance in all of this is that people have...
You want these people to leave?
Can we stop right now?
These are important questions to be asked about this. There were 30 stab wounds on Carolyn's body, and friends say that you attacked her after she rejected you, your romantic advances.
No, this has to stop now, please. You're really sidelining me here, and I'm not prepared to answer questions here at my place of work. This happened 30 years ago. I have been available to investigators in Korea and in the U.S.
In her interviews with South Korean police, a deposition, and a polygraph test with American investigators, Kathy Patrick did not point a finger at Sandra Ames. Stephen Schroeder had a question about that for Kathy.
Well, why didn't you tell us that 29 years ago?
When we recently contacted Sandra Ames, she told us she wasn't surprised that Kathy tried to blame her and denied having participated in Carolyn's murder.
If it went to trial, I would be willing to testify. I would need to testify.
Where should Kathy Patrick be today, in your opinion?
She should be in prison. Plain and simple.
Thanks to the Abel family's lobbying efforts, in 1994, Congress passed a law that allows for the U.S. prosecution of U.S. nationals who kill other Americans in foreign countries.
And so today, American families, if their loved ones are murdered abroad by an American, will have a very different experience than Carolyn Abel's family did. And I think I think we all owe them a debt of gratitude.
But in Carolyn Abel's case, any trial seems highly unlikely. In South Korea, the statute of limitations for her murder has expired. And the Abel family says investigators told them the physical evidence in the case has been destroyed. Evidence that would have been crucial for a trial in the United States.
No one should have to go through what my family went through. How do we live in a world where a U.S. citizen can go murder a U.S. citizen and then come back and live like nothing happened? That's the outrage of this.
In a case where nothing is simple, the long path to justice may never reach its destination.
I honestly can't picture her old. Because she was just always so vibrant and so energetic, and I think she still would be. You know, I miss her. She was like my best friend.
We've all continued our lives as adventurous people, but, you know, we kind of carry the memory of Carolyn behind us, whatever ground we walk on. It's hard not to remember that there's another one of us who could be out there on the same path.
"48 Hours. Don't miss an episode."
People perceive me as being a billionaireess and this entitled, spoiled, rich girl. And this wild, crazy party girl that's hanging from rafters. That's not it at all. I'm a businesswoman, I'm a mother, I'm a friend, I'm a wife. There are a few that think that I'm a murderer.
Surely the crime of the young decade, a respected senior officer dead.
He was hoping to be promoted to senior superintendent, but the Lord or God wanted to promote him to become an angel.
My brother, he was playful. He was a very happy person.
Henry Gemot, from everything we know, was a very jovial guy.
He loved his family. He loved sports. He loved music. He go all the way for his friend.
Henry was my friend. That was an accident, a terrible accident. It will haunt me for the rest of my life.
The shooting took place where?
At that dock.
These two people wind up on a lonely pier in the dark together. Why are they there?
I remember saying, "You really need your gun? We're going right here to the pier," and he's like, "I always have my gun." And so he brought it with him. The moon was beautiful. So we just wanted to come sit by the pier, put our feet in the water.
Was there anyone else on that pier besides the two of you?
No.
Did you have a finger around the trigger?
Not that I thought. I just remember trying to see. Next thing I know, the gun went off. He fell on top of me, and all I could feel was warmth, and I later then realized he was bleeding on me.
She feels this warmth. You know, when we talk about warmth, we think about warm cookies or a blanket. We don't think about the warmth of death.
Didn't know if he was dead. There's not a night that goes by I don't dream about that incident and relive it.
People are wondering, was this an accident? Was this murder?
Jasmine Harton was arraigned in the San Pedro Magistrates Court on a single charge of manslaughter by negligence.
My brother was shot behind the ear, execution style. She should be charged for murder. Murder. Murder.
I'm not a murderer. That's ridiculous.
Miss Harton, do you have anything to say?
My freedom is at stake. My relationship with my children is at stake.
Why won't you let me see the kids, Andrew?
She gave so many stories. So who knows when she's telling the truth?
I think a lot of people misjudge me.
Her name is Jasmine Harton, seen by many as one of the most wealthy and controversial people
They don't see my wholesome side.
in one of the most alluring places on earth.
When I decided to come to Belize, I thought that I was moving from the cold north into a paradise.
Belize is a tiny Central American tourist mecca that's also a haven for the super rich, where jet setters and beachcombers rub elbows every day. And it's where Jasmine, 32, was raising twins with her partner Andrew Ashcroft, a real estate developer and son of a British billionaire.
A woman with one of the most prominent names on the island is at the police station.
I've never had a story like this before.
Charisse Halsall is a news reporter and anchor at Channel 7 in Belize and a CBS News consultant. She has been covering the case since it broke on May 28, 2021.
Reports tonight are that Harton was splattered in the officer's blood.
Authorities detained Jasmine Harton after finding her dazed and drenched in blood on a deserted pier near her exclusive beachfront resort home.
It's a mystery for which the intrigue is escalating.
In the water was Police Superintendent Henry Jamont with a fatal gunshot wound behind his right ear. A man beloved by his 5 children and, says his sister Cherry, by the country he'd spent his life serving.
He had done a great job for the country of Belize.
We will purchase shoes for some of the needy kids within the villages around.
With a respected police officer dead and a wealthy, powerful woman in a concrete jail cell, there were rampant rumors about Jasmine Harton and Henry Jamont. Were drugs or infidelity involved? The speculation was fueled by reports that Jasmine's account of that night had changed. According to Channel 7, the first account she told was the fatal shot may have come from a passing boat.
Why would she have ever told such a wild story about a boat?
After a jailhouse visit with a lawyer, Harton admitted she fired the fatal shot, accidentally. Harton was charged with manslaughter by negligence and eventually released on bail.
The things that are at stake right now is my relationship with my children, my freedom, my business, my money, my character, my reputation, and my life is at stake.
Tonight, you will hear Jasmine Harton tell her side of the story. It's a story that begins in her childhood. She insists she was never a spoiled rich kid.
I think because I grew up the way I did, all of that has prepared me for what I've just endured.
She says she grew up poor in Canada as one of 9 siblings in a small farming community.
Do you remember being hungry as a child?
Of course, yeah, many times.
Jasmine's mother, Candace Castiglione, says food was in such short supply, she'd trick a local donut shop to give her stale pastries to feed her kids.
I went in and told them I was a pig farmer. I needed the donuts for my pigs. The kids thought it was awesome.
She went to high school in a hard-scrabble neighborhood of Kingston, Ontario, and set her sights on a career in dentistry, hoping to help the needy.
I started to do dental missions.
And Belize?
I saw an opportunity to come down and do a mission here for dentistry.
She arrived in Belize in 2014. She set up shop on an exclusive island called Ambergris Caye and made a splash on the social scene, acquiring a reputation as a party girl. And in 2015, she met someone who would change her life. By then, she was working as a realtor, and he was a potential client.
There was something intriguing about his level of confidence.
It was Andrew Ashcroft.
I thought he was very clever, very funny, very witty.
Andrew is a son of Lord Michael Ashcroft, a well-known conservative political figure in his native Great Britain, who'd built a billion-dollar business empire with extensive holdings in Belize. They reportedly have included ownership stakes in the phone company, 2 of the biggest banks, a TV station, even the main port.
Once you learned that Andrew Ashcroft is the son of a billionaire, how did that impact you in your relationship?
So I was curious about it.
Were you in any way attracted to his wallet?
No.
But the potential.
I wanted to build something together. I wanted us to be partners.
They got engaged in 2016, and the next year had twins, Charlie and Ella. It was just months earlier at a brunch that Jasmine had met the other man who'd become a central figure in her future, a high-ranking police official on the island, Henry Jamot.
Henry's a lot of fun, and we would get together often with groups.
Jasmine says he was on the island for about another year before being transferred, and they got to know each other well.
He loved his food, loved my cooking, often came to the house for dinner.
She says Andrew Ashcroft already knew Henry, so Jamot's name was on the invite list in May 2021 when the couple cut the ribbon on their professional dream.
Thank you.
A Marriott-branded resort worth millions. It was just weeks before the shooting.
For Jasmine and I, it marks the fulfillment of a dream to create the Elia Resort.
Jasmine Harton seemed to have it all. Opulent lifestyle, lovely family, and links to a powerful dynasty. Her life may have looked perfect, but she says by then, behind the curtains of the 5-bedroom beachfront condo she shared with Andrew and the children, there was trouble.
Andrew and I have had a very rocky road.
They tried to make it work, says Jasmine, though they never officially married.
We weren't even sleeping in the same rooms.
And she says they were essentially leading separate lives. So on a dark night in May 2021, when Jasmine Harton suddenly found herself in trouble at a party, she called for her friend, Henry Jamot.
I said, please come pick me up. This is bad.
Set the scene for us. This is a very special place for you.
Yeah, it used to be a very special place, but now brings back a lot of very sad, sad memories. This is Grand Colony. So that building in the back is where I lived.
At the glittering center of Jasmine Harton's world was a fantasy. The luxurious beachfront hotels of the Ashcroft Empire in San Pedro on Ambergris Caye, Belize.
San Pedro is where all that money comes in, rolls in, and rolls out.
Here, accommodations can go for upwards of $1,000 a night. It is just a few barefoot steps across the sand but a world away from everyday life in this Central American nation, where the average salary is around $800 a month.
There's an element of race in that expats do not tend to socialize within the Black community.
I'm standing in front
But
of the
reporter Charisse Housall says Jasmine Harton and Henry Jamot's life journeys cut a path that straddled both worlds.
Henry Jamot is friends with a wide range of Belizean society.
As at ease with the Ashcrofts and their enormous wealth as he was with the working class people he grew up with.
You called him king.
Yes.
He's the king.
Yes, he's the king. My parents named him king because he's one and only boy in the family.
A king who followed in the footsteps of his sister Cherry.
Yes, we are both police officers.
And was your brother a good cop?
A very good cop, very strict.
We're trying to bridge the gap between the community and the police.
Henry Jamot is an upstanding officer.
And I believe that by us...
A senior police official and a family man. Dedicated father to 4 girls and a boy. Son, brother, friend to many, like Gene Lopez.
He was a big fella, but he was friendly but stern.
Tell me about the Henry that you knew.
He would assist anybody if they need assistance.
He's a very good man, loved by many. He have extended his love beyond the family limits.
Did you become good friends?
Well, yes. The more I got to know him, we had a lot in common.
There has been a lot of talk around Belize that you and Henry Jamot were more than friends, that you may have been lovers.
That's not true. That's not true at all.
You guys never had a sexual relationship.
No.
Still, the nature of their relationship would become the heart of this story.
And the question is, what was such a prominent man, prominent yes, but working class, middle class, doing on a pair with someone who's from the 0.01% of wealthy expats? It just seemed like a mashup and a friendship that almost shouldn't exist.
Whatever their relationship, it was Jasmine's reliance on the man known as King that set in motion the final days of Henry Jamot's life. It was May 22nd, 2021. Jasmine says she was at a party some 70 miles from home.
A man followed me into the room and was quite aggressive with me.
Verbally, physically?
Physically, in a sexual manner. So in that moment, I fought him off me. I called Jamot right away.
The man Jasmine calls her protector didn't hesitate.
He drove an hour to come pick me up, and he kept saying, we need to really work on getting your firearms license.
She says Henry Jamot wanted her to have a gun for protection.
And you agreed to that?
Yes.
And when he had that conversation, did he show you his Glock pistol?
Yes. He wanted me to handle it, to get a feel for it.
This is what a Glock 17 looks like.
When you got home, did you share what happened to you with Andrew?
No, we weren't really sharing a lot with each other at all.
And Henry Jamot posted on Facebook that he was now single.
He posted something about being single like after 14 years.
And so, some 3 days later, it was Jasmine's turn to help her friend.
The next thing I know, I get a text message from Henry saying, hey, can you hook me up at Grand Colony? I need to come out there for a couple days and just blow off some steam.
He checked in on Wednesday, May 26.
Correct.
The next day, Henry went fishing with his best friend, Francisco Penny Arceo.
He was happy as happy. I said, so what's up tonight? He said, well, I have a date. I said, who? He said, that one, I'm taking it to my grave. But he was smiling when he told me that.
Were you that date?
That's hard to say. If he called me a date, he may have just been pulling their leg or exaggerating truth. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely not a date.
She says Andrew was supposed to join them, but as a full moon settled over the tropical Caribbean night, Jasmine met Henry alone.
I had a police report that Superintendent Jamot had been killed on a pier in San Pedro.
Just offshore from this pier, floating in the dark Caribbean Sea, Henry Jamot, shot dead.
Next thing I know, the police are there.
She had called the police herself. They took her into custody, where Jasmine reportedly spun her first version of how Henry Jamot died.
Her story is that a passing boat shot Jamot.
And that story is from Jasmine herself.
From Jasmine herself.
I don't remember saying that. Like, it was such a blur. You know, and I think I was in shock.
Were you intentionally trying to mislead police at that moment?
No.
To protect yourself?
No, not at all.
Later on the day of the shooting, Henry Jamot's body was brought across the shimmering waters and home by his best friend, Panny, in this same boat they'd been fishing in just a day before.
And I said, can't be, cannot be. I'm still hurt, still bothered, still very hurt.
You were crying?
Yeah, of course, yes.
The king was dead. The woman with connections to a wealthy, powerful family sat in a cell at the police station. And then reportedly, that story she told about the bullet fired from the boat began to change.
It's past midnight now. At the end of the pier, what happens?
There are only two people who know what happened on that pier on Ambergris Key. One is forever silenced, allegedly shot with his own gun, a Glock 17 like this one.
42-year-old Superintendent of Police Henry Jamot is dead.
More than 2 days after being taken into police custody, the other person in this twisted drama, Jasmine Harton, made a startling admission.
You have admitted shooting and killing Henry Jamot.
Yes, so...
But let me just finish my question. Was it an accident or was it murder?
It was absolutely not murder. Henry was my friend. That day changed everyone's lives.
Documents from the cops, courts, and forensic experts in Jasmine Harton's case have not been made public. So much of her account of that night cannot be independently corroborated. She told her story in detail for the first time on TV to 48 Hours.
How did you and Henry Jamot end up on that pier?
Well, we were sitting on the balcony of Unit 1, which is oceanfront.
She says they were drinking.
Cinnamon whiskey, yeah. He took his like a shot, you know, I was sipping on mine. Then we went, it was a full moon, the stars were gorgeous. So we decided, let's go down and sit on the pier. We were sitting on the edge, our legs kind of dangling, just talking.
As he'd done after rescuing her from that party, Jasmine says Henry Jamot again pulled out his 9mm Glock 17 and handed it to her.
I am not an expert with 9mm by any means.
So Jasmine says Henry began teaching her how to eject and reload the magazine clip and bullets.
He said, let's see if you can unload the clip, reload it. So helped me get the clip out. I was unloading it. Then he took the bullets and put them beside him. I was under the impression that the gun was completely empty at that time.
It doesn't make sense to people. Why are you doing this in the darkness?
It just kind of happened in that moment.
Jasmine claims Henry was a little inebriated, but says she wasn't.
I had had a few drinks, yeah. I wasn't drunk.
It's past midnight now. We're approaching
Yes.
12:45 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
What happens? What unfolds?
We're sitting on the end of the pier together. He makes a comment about how his shoulder's really stiff. And he's like, just rub my shoulder. So I kind of scooched back behind him.
Jasmine says she agreed to give Henry Jamot a shoulder massage. And then...
Let's head inside, he said. So I said, okay. So he has the bullets to his left. He asked me to hand him the clip from the gun. And that's when I picked it up. I'm still kind of behind him a little bit. Like, he's sitting like this, I'm kind of sitting like this.
Who's holding the gun at that point?
Me. So I reach for the gun, to take the magazine or the clip out because he was going to reload it. He had the bullets there. And all of a sudden it went off, and yeah, it's hard to talk about this still.
Take me through that moment by moment.
So I lean over, I pick up the gun, and I'm trying to click out the magazine, and it's not working. So I'm holding it like this, and I'm trying to use the moonlight or whatever to see if I'm clicking the right button.
Jasmine says the barrel of the gun was pointed to the left, where Henry was sitting.
Next thing I know, the gun went off.
And did you have a finger around the trigger?
Not that I thought.
Somehow you must have pulled the trigger.
I don't know. I mean, it was an accident or the gun misfired, but consciously did I pull the trigger? No.
She says Henry Jamot never made a sound.
So the shot went off and he fell on top of me, and all I could feel was warmth, and I later then realized he was bleeding on me.
Jasmine says after the shot, she struggled to get out from under Henry.
I was shaking him. I didn't know what to do. As I'm trying to wiggle my way free to render aid, his body was slipping into the water from the dock. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if he was dead.
She says it took time to make sense of what had happened.
It was a horrible accident.
Taking Jasmine into custody, authorities discovered she was carrying a small amount of cocaine. They didn't charge her with possession that night because it hadn't been tested yet.
Had you used cocaine that evening?
No.
Do you use cocaine? Do you have a drug problem?
I definitely do not have a drug problem at all. And I will say that the substance that they found was not mine.
Whose was it then?
I don't think I can say that.
She said it wasn't hers.
It's in her purse.
Cherry Jamot, the police officer who inspired her younger brother King to get his badge, isn't buying any of it.
Do you believe that your brother, on a darkened night at the end of a pier at 12:45 in the morning, was actually showing her how to use his Glock 9mm pistol?
My brother would never do a thing like that when it comes to firearm. He is so skillful and he is so careful.
You don't believe in any possible way this could have been an accident?
I cannot believe that.
Cherry is hopeful that when the ballistics report is revealed, it will lead prosecutors to upgrade the charge.
Jasmine Harden should be charged for murder and not manslaughter.
Either way, Jasmine Harton was about to run into a world of trouble a lot closer to home.
This is absolutely war.
War with the billionaire family she once called her own.
Tonight we continue with the saga of Jasmine Harton versus Andrew Ashcroft.
Andrew is inside, hiding my kids inside. Why won't you let me see the kids, Andrew? Why won't you let me see the children?
From the swaying palms to the silent roads, journalist Charisse Housall and I went looking for Henry Jamot's hometown roots.
Peter, this is the Hummingbird Highway in Belize, and it's the road to the culture capital, which is Dangriga. That's where Henry Jamot grew up, and where his family still lives.
We followed the dusty, colorful streets of Dangriga.
Let's stop at that greenhouse there. I'm looking for where Henry Jamot used to live.
And we're led to Henry Jamot's nephew, Edel.
This is it.
He is clear on how his uncle died.
Murder. And the whole family feels that way.
Everybody feels that way.
But authorities charged Jasmine Harton with manslaughter, not murder. And publicly, investigators have never suggested any motive for her to have intentionally killed Henry.
I had no motive to do that to my friend.
But Henry's family believes the truth is revealed in how and where he was shot.
My brother was shot behind the ear, execution style.
That shot echoed through a town famous for its music and drums, the beat Henry Jamot loved, the heritage he was passing on to his children.
We're getting close to the church where Henry Jamot's funeral was held.
As he had in life, the 42-year-old public servant united the people of Belize.
Wherever he goes, wherever he did, he shared that love with all of us.
But how to comfort sisters who lost the brother they lovingly called king? And how to answer 6-year-old Henry III's question.
How comes my dad haven't called me?
While Henry Jamot was mourned by a nation, Jasmine Harton was getting a different kind of attention. And, according to a prison official,
the 32-year-old, who will be dealt with like any other untried prisoner, will become the only Caucasian among 1,041 inmates.
Still, the people of Belize couldn't help but wonder if Jasmine's race, stature, and wealth might benefit her. Then she was locked up for 13 days.
My cell was infested with cockroaches.
Miss Harton, do you have anything to say?
When she finally made bail, roughly $15,000 US, it was paid for by an employee of the Ashcrofts. But Jasmine was already getting the feeling that her partner Andrew wanted her out of sight.
The day that I got out, I was expecting to be reunited with my children at home, but instead I was sent to a house in the middle of nowhere by myself, without my children, without a phone.
Andrew arranged for the house and for the twins to visit, but Jasmine claims he only allowed them to see her one time. Andrew claims Jasmine left the house before he could arrange another visit.
And being apart from your children, what has that been like for you?
That's one that will get me to cry.
2 weeks after making bail, Jasmine tried to visit the twins herself.
My son and my daughter.
At the Grand Colony, where she had lived with Andrew Ashcroft. It was then that chaos broke out.
So this is me recording.
This is part of the video Jasmine shot.
Andrew's running so I can't see my children. Security is literally stopping me from seeing my children right now.
In a statement, Andrew later wrote that Jasmine was shouting and cursing and behaving aggressively toward the hotel staff.
You've been instructed by Andrew to stop me from seeing my children. That's correct? He's inside hiding. Why won't you let me see the children?
She is startled 2 days later when she's arrested again, this time for assaulting a hotel staff member that day.
All I did was try to collect my personal belongings and see my children.
And authorities add a charge for cocaine possession from the night of the Henry Jamot shooting.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
Her bail is then revoked, and she's locked up again. But not for long.
Tonight, after 4 more nights behind bars,
Jasmine was out again. Her bail restrictions mandated she check in with police every day. A 4-hour round-trip drive across Belize from where she is staying.
And so when you go in, what do you say?
They asked me a series of questions: where I'm staying, my date of birth.
But this day's check-in, just 2 weeks after the confrontation at the hotel,
Why are you keeping my children from me, Andrew?
would prove anything but routine. Authorities hand her an order to appear at a custody hearing, reciting Andrew's allegations.
For a reason that the mother of the children hardly spends any time with the children. First of all, I was in jail.
Andrew Ashcroft seeks full custody of his children because Jasmine is charged with causing the death of a police officer by negligence, as well as the assault of that hotel employee, and claims
She is addicted to non-prescription and illegal drugs and a habitual drunkard.
it's a vividly different description of the woman Andrew once welcomed into his rarefied world.
In my opinion, this is absolutely war. This is absolutely gloves are off.
The war would be about the custody of the children, a powerful family, and a building international scandal.
Money, power, image, and reputation mean absolutely everything to that family.
Next up in the war of the Ashcrofts, money. According to Jasmine, she's been cut off financially.
You didn't have a bank account, a trust fund, nothing that you could draw upon.
Not at all.
Andrew Ashcroft declined to speak with 48 Hours, and his attorney says with legal proceedings underway, it would be quite ill-advised to grant an interview. The wheels had come off Jasmine Harton's life in paradise, and she was running scared.
I've been through what I would consider hell on earth.
But the Jamaat family says they're the ones going through hell as they continue to mourn the kind, conscientious man they believe Jasmine murdered.
She gave so many stories, so who knows when she's telling the truth?
Central to Jasmine's story is that she knew very little about handguns and that Henry wanted to teach her. But recently, images have appeared of Jasmine in Belize with a shotgun.
What does that video tell you?
That video tells me that Jasmine is well-versed, have wide knowledge of bigger firearms.
This is you with a semi-automatic rifle.
Yes?
It has a magazine, a clip, so I'm guessing you know how to take out a magazine and reinsert it into a weapon.
That picture was from 2012 when I was at a Las Vegas shooting range. They don't let you load your firearms. What the video doesn't show is that it really was probably my 10th attempt at the watermelon. I'm not very good with firearms.
Jasmine says she knew next to nothing about handguns.
I do not know how to handle a 9mm properly at all, as we can tell.
It would come down to this. Was the gun used to kill Henry Jamaat fired by accident? We asked an expert. Is it easy to accidentally fire this weapon? There's a lot riding on Jasmine Harton's account of Henry Jamaat's shooting. So we wanted an expert opinion about whether her story lines up.
What are you holding in your hand?
This is a Glock 17 9mm pistol. It's the same type of weapon that was used in the shooting incident that occurred in Belize.
David Katz is a former DEA agent and a veteran firearms instructor who taught at the FBI DEA Academy in Quantico.
If used properly, how safe is a Glock 17?
These are extremely safe.
Katz says Glock handguns are designed to withstand almost any amount of jostling without accidentally firing.
I could bang it, I could drop it, it's not going to go off.
But Katz says there's one notable exception. A potential key to understanding what happened on that pier. We showed him portions of my interview with Jasmine.
I'm trying to get the magazine out.
As you can see from Jasmine's gestures, she says she was fumbling around to release the gun's magazine.
If her finger was on the trigger and the trigger moved to the rear, with 5 pounds of pressure, the gun's going to go bang.
Pulling the trigger on Glock pistols can be easier than on some other handguns, says Katz.
This is a Glock 40.
And accidental trigger pulls could happen to anyone, even to veterans like this DEA agent who accidentally shot himself.
Let me get a sense of how much force it'll take to fire this weapon.
feels pretty light to me.
Yeah, it's 5.5 pounds.
Consciously, did I pull the trigger? No.
Even though Jasmine says she doesn't remember,
She had to have pulled the trigger.
There's no doubt about it. She pulled the trigger.
Kat says trigger accidents can result from something called sympathetic contraction, in which contracting one hand muscle triggers others too.
Let's assume you put your finger on the trigger in this position. You squeeze the bottom fingers, your trigger finger is going to similarly squeeze as well.
Another possible factor, alcohol. Jasmine says both she and Henry Jamaat had been drinking that night.
There is no better way to get yourself hurt than by messing with firearms when you are impaired.
I was under the impression that the gun was completely empty at that time.
One or both of them could have unloaded the magazine, says Katz, forgetting there was a bullet ready to fire in the chamber. Based on what you've heard her say and what you know about the Glock 17, could this have been an accidental shooting?
Yeah, it could have been. It's a troubling story from so many aspects, starting with why she's practicing in the dark. But then when she talks about where her hand was when the round went off, could it have been an accidental discharge? Absolutely, yes.
We don't know what forensics, ballistics, or other tests authorities have conducted. Prosecutors aren't saying.
I have no idea what evidence they have against me because they haven't released any of it yet.
But Jasmine says Henry's sister Cherry confronted her when the two women met by chance in July of 2021.
I said, Jasmine, why did you kill my brother? Her response was, I'm sorry, it was an accident. I told her, Jasmine, you don't know what you have done to my family.
Do you believe you deserve any sort of legal punishment for what happened on that pier?
I believe that it was an accident, and I do accept any punishment that comes my way.
Under Belizean law, she could get as much as 5 years for negligent manslaughter, but also as little as a fine without any more jail time.
It would be an injustice to the family.
Ever since his funeral, Henry Jamaat has watched over his family from a portrait on the wall.
The children would sit in the sofa and they play with him up there.
Jasmine lost custody of her children in 2022 and is not allowed to visit them anymore. And given the enduring mystery of exactly what happened that night, Jasmine Harton may forever live under a cloud of suspicion.
It's haunting me. I think about how his poor kids must feel being without their dad, and I wish I could take it back.
"48 Hours. Don't miss an episode."
You want to go back to where your brother was found? Why?
Yes. I want to go to the beach because that is where it happened. If only the rocks could talk.
It's my understanding that your brother was actually found in the underbrush over here.
Dale Pike was found on a beach, Miami, naked, face down, dead. Shot twice in the back of the head. My name is Joe Tacopina. I'm a lawyer former prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, who's one of the lawyers for Enrico Forte, an innocent man who's been wrongly convicted and has spent the last 20 years in jail.
Mr. Forte?
Yes.
Did you have anything to do with Dale Pike's death?
Absolutely nothing.
Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, ever think you'd end up in a place like this?
Never, never.
Enrico Forte, his nickname's Kiko, was a world-class windsurfer from Italy. He was a father. He was a husband.
There's no forensic evidence linking Kiko Forte to this crime. None whatsoever. People have made comparisons to this case in Amanda Knox. You don't decide this person is guilty and then look for evidence to back it up.
Is that what you think happened to Enrico Forte?
There's no doubt, without question.
The victim in this case is Dale Pike, the son of Tony Pike, who owns a famous hotel in Ibiza, Spain.
It's a place where partiers go, where people go to do wild things, Spain's version of Las Vegas.
She knew you were in this special place. So that attracted all different sorts of people, you know, whether it be Frank Zappa, Julio Iglesias, Wham, George Michael, and of course Freddie Mercury.
Did you know that your father was seriously entering into negotiations to sell the hotel to Enrico Forte?
Yes, it just didn't feel right. Dale wanted to go and see this guy face to face.
Dale Pike was going to Miami, and Enrico Forte was the one that was supposed to pick him up.
All I knew that my brother was going over there for the deal. So it's really like it was the deal that created the death.
As you're sitting here right now, do you think Enrico Forte either helped kill or actually killed Dale Pike?
No, I do not.
But you were one of the 12 jurors who convicted him.
Yes, I know.
The 1998 murder of Dale Pike has always been, and is to this day, a true murder mystery.
Always questions. Always questions.
Brad Pike is Dale's younger brother.
I also don't think I'll ever know the truth.
What is known is that someone shot Dale Pike twice in the back of the head with a .22 and left his body on a quiet stretch of beach on Virginia Key, minutes from Key Biscayne. Sean Crowley, a former captain with the NYPD, is now a private investigator.
You know, Virginia Key is a common place for windsurfers.
On February 16, 1998, a beachgoer found Dale's body.
He sees indentation in the sand from the waterline into the vegetation. But in that indentation, he sees blood stains all along.
So all the way from here, like from the edge of the water, all the way to vegetation?
Correct.
He's found completely naked?
Completely naked, yes. His shirt was a little off to the side, but bloodied. And then some key pieces of evidence were under his body, or right next to his body.
Crowley, who works for Joe Tacopina, Enrico Forte's current lawyer, believes the killer or killers staged the crime scene with obvious clues so the body would be quickly identified. A boarding pass with Dale's name on it, a pendant from Pike's Hotel in Ibiza, Spain, and a phone calling card with only one number dialed. That number belonged to Forte, better known as Kiko, an Italian television producer living in Miami.
As if to say to the police, just in case you don't know who committed this murder, it's the guy who picked him up at the airport because he has the boarding pass, and checked the calling card because Kiko Forti's number's on it 3 times. Here you go, police.
I was wondering, like, how close were you to Dale?
We were close, but I guess we were also quite different. I loved very much the outdoors. Dale wasn't really interested in that, so he was interested more in the clubbing, that sort of thing.
Charming man?
Yeah, very much so.
Brad was home in Australia when he got the news about Dale from a Miami detective.
And she said, look, I'm sorry to inform you that your brother's been found murdered. I told them the whole story about what was happening.
What was happening was that Brad and Dale's father, Anthony Tony Pike, had signed papers to sell his world-famous Pike's Hotel to Enrico Forti.
We had our suspicions about it. Dale wanted to just lay it out in line and say, look, I understand you want to do the deal, so what's the game? What are you playing up with now?
The brothers believed the hotel was worth a lot more money than the sales price of approximately $1.6 million. In the 1980s, the hotel had become a destination resort after George Michael and Wham chose it as a setting for the iconic video Club Tropicana. Tony Pike had a cameo role, and he played it to the hilt. That video and Tony's sex-crazed persona made Pike's a hedonist hideaway and a haven for celebrities.
He was a very, very adventurous and very tenacious man, incredibly charismatic, good-looking, very charming, cheeky.
Tony had asked Dale to help run Pike's after Tony became very sick in January 1997.
They did tests and immediately diagnosed him with AIDS and said he has full-on AIDS and AIDS dementia.
But thanks to medication, in November 1997, Tony was clear-minded enough to travel to Williams Island, an exclusive enclave outside Miami. He was visiting an old friend, Thomas Connaught, a German expat who had a taste for the good life.
His idea of living was to drink champagne instead of water.
Chavez Mesmer managed a shop on Williams Island and knew Connaught well.
Everything had to be the best. His shoes had to be Gucci. Everything had to be the best.
While visiting Connaught, Tony Pike met Connaught's upstairs neighbor, Enrico Forti, and they hit it off.
Very successful.
Incredible person.
He had contracts going with ESPN.
World champion since 1982.
In Italy, he had won a popular quiz show.
Kiko Forti! Signor Forti, complimenti.
And later produced extreme sports videos.
He was a mover and a shaker, buying up properties right around in Williams Island. Seemed to be the perfect life, if you will.
Hi. Hi, my name is your mommy.
Forti's wife, Heather, was pregnant. Wow. And the couple had 2 young daughters.
Woo. Oh, my God. The most loving father. And the way he felt about the baby coming, he was on cloud 9.
He loved Heather.
Oh, with all his heart and soul.
Then, in late 1997, Tony Pike told Forti he wanted to sell his legendary hotel. And a few months later, the hotel deal came together. Tony signed papers to sell it to Forti. And that's when Tony's sons got upset. They felt Forti had taken advantage of Tony.
The nature of the AIDS dementia, as far as I know, is that he goes in and out of lucidity. I guess Dale and I were just suspicious that because he wasn't mentally together, that any deal that he was doing anyway
needed to be checked and looked at.
Brad says Dale then flew to Miami to deal with 40 in person. Enrico Forti, once a sports champion who traveled all over the world, today is restricted to a prison cell. But he says only his body is behind bars.
I still travel a lot in my mind. That's my way to survive in here.
He's constantly turning over the events that landed him here. Back in 1998, Forti was excited about becoming the owner of the legendary Pikes Hotel in Ibiza, Spain. Sales papers had been signed, but Dale and his brother Brad still had questions.
My brother sort of said, look, one of us needs to go and have a look at the deal and just find out what's happening with this.
Forti went to pick Dale up at the Miami airport on Sunday afternoon, February 15, 1998. But Dale's flight was late.
I almost left. I waited for him almost 2 hours. And when I didn't find him, I started paging him.
These records show Forti and Dale's attempts to locate each other using the airport intercom.
They start playing this game of telephone tag via the airport intercom system for about an hour and a half.
Joe Tacopina and Dina Neshwat, Forti's lawyers, say Forti was nervous about the time because he had promised Heather he would pick up her father that night at the Fort Lauderdale airport, about 45 minutes north.
And she said to him, "Don't be late to pick up my father."
Forti says that when he and Dale finally did connect, Dale had a request.
As soon as he arrived, he asked me for some cigarette. I don't smoke, I didn't have cigarettes. So we stopped at the first gas station that I could find for him to buy some cigarettes.
Dale Pike went in there, goes into the phone booth, and makes a call.
And then Dale said, could you drop me off? At first he said Key Biscayne, and Kiko said, no, I can't go that far. You know, I have to go pick up my father-in-law. So he said, no, not Key Biscayne, just take me to the Rusty Pelican restaurant. And Kiko said, okay.
Forti says they never talked about the hotel deal. Instead, Forti says Dale told him he was going to a party with, quote, friends of Thomas Connaught. Sound like something your brother would do?
It's not out of the possibility if he'd been promised a good party.
At the restaurant, Forti says Dale got out of the car and into a white Lexus in the parking lot. He says he didn't recognize the driver.
The guy inside the car that was waiting for him was an elegant person with a white shirt, a gold chain, gold watch.
After dropping off Dale, Forti made a cell phone call to his wife Heather at exactly 7:16 p.m. Forti knew she'd be upset that he had been wasting time with Dale, so Forti lied.
And I told I didn't pick him up. I didn't want to have an argument with her. I was extremely late.
Forti picked up Heather's father at the Fort Lauderdale airport and says he didn't give Dale another thought.
The moment that I left him, it was out of my mind. It's not that I was thinking, oh, what's going to happen to him? No, never for a second came to my mind that something bad or terrible could happen.
Dale's body was found nearly 24 hours later on Monday evening on that windsurfing beach on Virginia Key, about 2 miles from the Rusty Pelican. Forti says he heard the news about Dale's murder on Wednesday and that Tony was flying to Miami.
I was confused and I was still under shock. I spent all night trying to locate where Tony Pike was. Nobody knew where he was.
And that's because the Miami police had spirited him away. They wanted to know more about Dale's trip and that hotel deal.
They certainly were convinced that the deal with the hotel and the purchase of the hotel was, let's say, the impetus for the killing.
40 says he knew none of this when he reached out to the police on Thursday.
I thought it was the right thing to do.
Unwittingly, 40 was walking into the lion's den, and police were ready to pounce. Suspicious of 40 and the hotel deal, detectives tried to trick him, suggesting that Tony might also be dead.
The police lied intentionally to Kiko, and what Kiko thought was, oh my God, I was in Miami. I picked up Dale Pike, he's dead. These guys think I killed both of them. And he panicked.
40 then made what he says was the biggest mistake of his life. He repeated the lie he had told his wife. He told cops he had not picked up Dale at the airport.
But if you were going to try to help the police, why didn't you tell them you had picked Dale Pike up?
Because when I arrived there, that moment, I realized I was a suspect. And of course, I was confused, and I do believe there is no logic on the way that I behaved that night.
40 returned to the police station the next day and says he had made up his mind to tell the truth.
When did you tell them you had, in fact, picked up Dale Pike?
As soon as I had the opportunity. I don't remember exactly the timing, but...
But detectives say 40 only admitted picking up Dale after they confronted him with those airport paging records proving that he and Dale had made contact.
That's a lie. There are lies from these policemen. They're way bigger than the lie that I did.
40 insists he came clean about everything, telling cops all he knew about the Pike family. And 40 pointed investigators to that longtime friend of Anthony Pike, Thomas Connaught.
And Thomas Connaught was stealing money left and right from Anthony Pike.
The police went to find Connaught, but by then, Thomas Connaught had vanished.
The man was just the happiest person I ever met.
Chave Mesmer knew Enrico 40 even before Thomas Connaught arrived on the scene.
He was one of the kindest, nicest, most appealing people on the island.
But his downstairs neighbor, Thomas Connaught, she said, well, he was a different story.
When did you start to realize this is a con man?
Right after I married him.
It turned out Thomas Connaught moved to Williams Island straight out of a German prison. Connaught was convicted of 14 counts of fraud, stealing millions. But when he turned up on Williams Island, the high-flying Connaught told everyone he was a tennis pro.
So this guy who told you he was a tennis player and was making money from playing tennis...
He wore a lot of tennis clothes.
He just wore a lot of tennis clothes.
Chave says Connaught was charming, and she eventually married him to help him get a green card. But the sham nuptials were quickly annulled when she said she saw his fits of anger.
Thomas had a really bad temper.
She wasn't surprised that Connaught vanished when Dale Pike's body was found.
I thought they got him for the murder.
With 100% certainty, there was not any motive for Kiko Forte to want Dale Pike dead. Zero. There was plenty of motive for Thomas Connaught.
Turns out for months, Thomas Connaught had been illegally running up exorbitant charges on Tony Pike's credit cards. And Dale Pike knew it. 40 and Tacopina believed that was a motive for murder. Cops caught up with Connaught days later in downtown Miami, but Connaught told police 40 had his own motive, that Dale's concerns about the hotel sale could ruin 40's deal.
Connaught made a very compelling case that Kiko must have killed him. Kiko was trying to swindle him from the hotel.
Police had enough to charge both men with fraud. Connaught for running up $90,000 on Tony Pike's credit cards. 40 for allegedly trying to swindle Tony out of his hotel. But for the Miami police, 40 was still the prime murder suspect.
The police had determined early on that it was Kiko. That it was Kiko. It was Kiko.
After all, 40 was the last known person to see Dale Pike alive, and he had lied about it to the police. And Connaught had something 40 did not, an alibi. He was hosting a dinner that night.
At a dinner party in his little apartment, because he had a lot of people in there at this particular time to give him enough witness for an alibi.
But Tacopino says if that alibi clears Thomas Connaught, then the timeline should clear 40. There isn't enough time for 40 to pick up Dale, murder him, and then meet his father-in-law in 90 minutes. Prosecutors agreed that he might not be the trigger man.
They don't accuse Kiko of being the gunman, the triggerman, the shooter. They don't accuse him of that. They said he was acting accomplice with someone else. With who? They have no idea, but with someone else.
Even if 40 wasn't the trigger man, prosecutors decided they could prove he had a role in Dale's murder. Prosecutors cut a deal with Connaught to testify against 40, even though the convicted con man had failed 3 polygraph tests. And in October of 1999, they announced they had critical physical evidence linking 40 to the crime scene. What's the crucial evidence against 40? Grains of sand, less than a teaspoon. Prosecutors say they recovered that much from 40's car and that it matches the sand here on this beach where Dale Pike's body was found.
Now let's focus on the evidence of the sand. The first 2 times they searched that vehicle, they came back with an insufficient amount of sand for the forensic technician to determine where that sand would have come from. The 3rd time, they recovered some sand in the trailer hitch. They removed the trail hitch. This wouldn't be allowed in a traffic court, let alone a murder trial. This wouldn't be allowed in a food court.
But it was. And at 40's murder trial in 2000, prosecutors pored over blow-ups of microscopic images of sand particles, with their experts saying the grains definitely came from Virginia Key.
And he lives in that area, and he's got kids, and he's a windsurfer. Why wouldn't he have this sand on his vehicle?
Veronica Lee had just turned 20 when she was picked for the jury. She had her doubts.
Were you troubled at all about the fact that there was no DNA that connected the defendant? No fingerprints?
Right.
But the state pathologist did provide damning testimony. Based on undigested food that Dale Pike likely ate on the airplane, the pathologist said the time of death was consistent with some time between 6 p.m. and 7:16 p.m. when Dale Pike was with 40 and when Connaught was home at his dinner party.
How big a mistake was it for the defense not to call their own pathologist?
It was an enormous mistake by the defense not to call their own pathologist.
48 Hours asked pathologist Dr. Gregory Davis from the University of Kentucky to review the Miami pathologist's report.
I'm shocked that this got entered into evidence.
Is there like one word that sums up this affidavit? How would you sum it up?
Irresponsible.
Dr. Davis says pathologists have known for decades that people simply digest food at different rates.
Can you pinpoint the time of death to a minute the way this is 7:16 as opposed to 7:17?
Absolutely not.
In fact, Dr. Davis believes the lack of animal or bug bites on the body and the state of decomposition indicates that Dale Pike could have died later, even the following day, when 40 would have an alibi of his own. Prosecutors stuck to their timeline. They highlighted that 7:16 p.m. phone call 40 made to his wife when he was supposedly heading north to pick up her father. A cell phone tower instead places 40 going in the opposite direction, and prosecutors, without any proof, speculated that 40 was on his way to get rid of evidence. The defense countered that there were too many variables, including the weather, to determine why one tower picked up a call and not another. And they tried to offer Connaught as a better suspect.
Did you want to know more about Thomas Connaught?
Yes, I did. Every time they tried to bring him up, oh, he's not the one that's on trial here.
Prosecutors ultimately decided against calling the convicted con man. And on June 15, 2000, the case went to the jury.
I tried to voice my opinion and tell them, look, there is no smoking gun. How can you put this man away, you know, for life? There was a point where I locked myself in the bathroom and started crying. Nobody would listen to me. They said, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just a little girl, you know, and it was really hard.
Veronica felt forced to vote guilty.
He looked right at me, and I couldn't even look at him in the eyes. I felt like I let him down so much. But I tried so hard.
Some jurors did not like the fact that Forty initially lied.
That's the only thing they have against me. They lie to my wife and they lie to the police. Nothing else.
And that was a mistake?
That was a mistake. Of course it was a mistake. But it's a mistake. They need to be punished with a life sentence.
Forty was sentenced to life without parole.
I felt like he was done wrong. I don't think it was a fair trial.
So if Enrico Forty did not kill Dale Pike, was it Thomas Connaught? We went to find him.
The only truth that I know for sure is that Kiko would definitely not kill a person.
Like all of Kiko Forti's friends, Francesco Guidetti, who attended the trial, will never accept Forti's guilty verdict.
The trial was tragic.
And what's more, lawyer Joe Tacopina says the police botched a key aspect of Forti's story that might have revealed another suspect. Forty told authorities that after he picked up Dale, they stopped at a gas station where Dale used a payphone.
They went and pulled the phone records from that telephone booth, and they came back saying, he lied. There's absolutely no record of a call that was made from that phone booth on that day at that time.
And what was wrong with that?
The problem was they subpoenaed the wrong year.
By the time the police subpoenaed the correct year, the records were no longer available.
So because of police incompetence, we will never know who was on the other end of that phone call. It's mind-blowing to me that he was convicted.
Forty's friends and family agree and have kept a drumbeat over the years insisting he's innocent. In 2013, Forty's case came to the attention of Italian journalist Manuela Moreno.
I was in US and I'm looking for a big story. I started to study Kiko Forti's story and I said, this is my story.
Manuela visited Forty and he told her he was desperate for legal help. At his suggestion, Manuela contacted Joe Tacopina.
She said, you have to take this case. She asked me to meet with the family.
Few Americans have ever heard the name Enrico Forti, but 5,000 miles away from his Miami prison cell, it's a very different story. Here in Trento, Italy, he's the hometown hero.
We met some of Forty's closest friends, including Luisa Mancastropa, Forty's first wife, who remembered the days she and Kiko would ski and snowboard.
Where are we exactly?
It's the place where we used to come with Kiko.
You said he always had to be moving.
Yeah. Ski, snowboard, jumping with the skis, everything. Everything with the snow.
Have you stayed in touch with his family, Kiko's family?
Oh, yes, they love me. And the mother loves me.
She's 91 years old and she's still a young chicken. She's my rock.
You talk to her?
Yeah, I talk to her. She's great.
She speak English?
No.
She doesn't. Oh, I'll have to
But
bring an interpreter.
she's very smart. Italian communicate with their hands, so she will be able to communicate with you. She will give you a big hug and a kiss.
We also visited Forti's uncle Gianni, who is the keeper of all things Kiko. Italian magazines compare Forti to Amanda Knox. How often do you think about Kiko?
Io non è che ci penso, c'ho gli incubi.
It's not that I think of him. I have nightmares. I have spent 20 years looking at all the evidence to see if there was any basis. It's my life. After 20 years, we must say and prove that Kiko Forte is not guilty, and he never was.
Gianni's relentless campaign to keep his nephew's case in the public eye paid off. When a witness came forward with an intriguing story after seeing a television program about Forti's case.
I met Thomas Connaught by chance on a yacht in Monte Carlo.
We found Fabrizio Pandolfi in the small town of Lucca. He's restricted to his hometown because of his own financial crimes. When he told his story publicly for the first time, he said that in 2011, he met Thomas Connaught at a party in Monte Carlo on a yacht called the Goldfinger.
The true reason why I'm here is what I was able to hear and understand. That there is a person who is in prison who is innocent. I heard Thomas Connaught brag of things that he had done, serious things, grave things. And he managed to get away with it, and others paid for him. He also used to mime the use of a revolver, of a gun, like this. He used to say I did things that I didn't pay for.
Pandolfi says Connaught never said he was the trigger man, nor did he use the names Dale Pike or Enrico Forti. But Connaught did refer to his friend Anthony, who had a hotel in Ibiza. Eventually, Pandolfi provided this information to an Italian investigator, and she gave it to Joe Tacopina.
And what is your hope by giving her this information? By giving Kiko Forti's attorney this kind of information? What's your hope?
That the investigation would be reopened, so that one could show that Kiko Forte, most likely, maybe for sure, had nothing to do at all with the murder.
Connaught has always insisted he had nothing to do with Dale's murder, and after he served 3 years in Florida prisons for stealing $90,000 from Tony Pike, he was deported to Germany.
They let him walk out the door and let him take a plane and go to Germany and live the rest of his life.
We wanted to ask Thomas Connaught about Pandolfi's story, so we left Italy and headed north on the Autobahn.
The trail then led us here to Munich, Germany. This is where Thomas Connaught says he now lives. He even gave us his phone number. But when it came to sitting down with him for an on-camera interview or just meeting with him, you could see for yourself what happened.
Can we just meet with you? I mean, all I'll do is no camera and just meet with you for coffee. We told Connaught about the story Fabrizio Pandolfi told us. Have you ever been on a yacht called the Goldfinger? So you have been. He confirmed that much. And so we have somebody who has come forward who said that he heard you actually say that you had been involved in a murder. You say he's a crook, but to be honest, Mr. Connaught, you have quite the criminal history as well. Connaught said Pandolfi had no credibility. One con man pointing the finger at another. All right, thank you, sir.
What did he say?
He's not going to meet with us. He got very, very agitated. He does not say Enrico Forti is the killer. He just says, you want to know who killed Dale Pike? Ask Enrico Forti. Back in the United States, we decided to fly Brad Pike, the brother of murder victim Dale Pike, in from Australia. He brought along family files where we found something written by the homicide commander that was extraordinary.
That's the first I'm hearing of that, Aaron. My reaction is to want to pound this table right now and say, are you kidding me? That's disgusting.
It's been 21 years since Brad Pike's brother Dale was murdered on this Miami beach, and Brad is here from Australia to finally see what it looks like for himself.
Does coming here in some way just raise more questions in your head rather than answering them?
It does, but then it also answers a lot of questions because now I know what the scenario looks like. I could think of a lot worse places to die.
In Miami, Brad had a private meeting with the prosecutor who tried the murder case against Enrico Forti, stopped by the Rusty Pelican, and visited Williams Island, where his father Tony spent time with Forti and Thomas Connaught.
It remains now no longer an imagination, but a reality.
Brad brought with him a stack of papers he had collected about the case, including this email.
This is an email that was sent to Tony Pike after the trial.
In the lengthy email sent to Brad's father after the trial, Lieutenant John Campbell, the homicide squad's commander, writes, "The prosecutors were very uncertain about proceeding, and we almost had to threaten them to get Forti charged."
I get a little scared. That that's how the system of justice works down there.
Lieutenant Campbell also wrote, "I was really nervous that the jury would find him not guilty because we just didn't have a lot of proof. Thankfully, they recognized that truth when they saw it." We showed that email to Forti.
From the beginning, they wanted to crucify me, and they were just waiting to see how they could do it. And that fax that you have in your hand, it's just another evidence.
Is that hard to read?
Yes, it's hard to read. I wish I knew about these things when I could still fight on a legal way.
Your lawyer has this now.
I hope he can do something about that.
Campbell, now retired, admits he had a contentious relationship with an administrator in the prosecutor's office, but that he and other detectives all believed Forti was guilty and that they, quote, had sufficient weight of evidence to meet our legal burden. Prosecutors refused our request for an interview, but wrote that they stand behind Forti's conviction.
There's so many doors closed. Getting a sit down with the prosecutors is impossible. We've asked, they said no thanks, we're not interested. We need somebody to listen.
Enrico Forti hopes that someone will come forward with new evidence, like the identity of the man who Forti says picked up Dale Pike at the Rusty Pelican. We arranged this sketch to be made based on Forti's description.
That's very accurate. The only thing is missing is a gold chain, but otherwise it's a very accurate drawing of the person.
And how do you just keep going every day?
I'm looking forward. You know, I do that for my kids, I do that for my friends, I do that for my family.
Forti's wife, Heather, was 25 years old and pregnant when he was first arrested, and his only son was born while Forti was out on bail. The couple also had 2 older daughters.
When you were convicted, you said something to your wife. What did you tell Heather?
I told her that it was time for her to get her own life, because it would have been a long battle.
Eventually, Heather moved back to her native Hawaii with their 3 children. After divorcing Forti, she married an old friend and raised a blended family. Forti's daughter, Jenna, once appeared on the CBS program, Hawaii Five-0.
I'm adding him to my to-do list.
And Forty's son, barely 2 years old when his father was convicted, asked his mother for a special present for his 16th birthday, to visit his father in prison.
Do you think someday you'll have the life you had back?
I do believe so. I don't want to use the word hope. I believe in that. I'm very positive. My mind's still pretty much free.
Remember, prosecutors conceded at trial that Forty may not have been the trigger man. No one else was ever arrested in connection with Dale's murder, which means the shooter is likely at large. Tony Pike died in February 2019. As for Brad Pike, he believes Forty has spent enough time in prison.
What do you want to say to Enrico Forti?
I forgive him. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible situation, whether he killed Dale or not.
Had they met, Brad says he would have told Forty that he supports the calls to free him.
And I don't think anyone will really know what the absolute truth is. There's only two people that know, and one of them's dead. And the other one pulled the trigger. It's those unsolved mysteries that we have to learn to live with.
You can't look at the water and at the sea without remembering what happened to George. It's got too many bad memories for me now.
Oh, I miss him. Miss him every day. I miss his voice. I miss his phone calls. He called me all the time. I just miss him as a son.
Pretty much every night I go to bed, I see his face.
No parent should have to lose their son that way.
This is Captain Michael. May I have your attention, please? A person may have gone overboard last night.
I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that my son was murdered on that cruise ship. There's so much evidence. It's overwhelming.
It's just been a complete and awful nightmare for my family. And we still do not have justice for George.
The first suspect is the surviving spouse.
She said she couldn't remember anything.
Eyebrows started to go up about, well, what exactly did Jennifer know?
But the FBI soon turned its attention from George Smith's widow to a group of young men, the last people to see George alive.
There were sounds of a fight, a struggle inside my brother's room.
I heard some males arguing on the balcony.
What we're trying to do is sort through the facts and figure out what happened that night, because unfortunately this has become pretty much a cold case.
While on the cruise, did you meet George Smith IV?
There was a series of questions that I asked in each of the depositions of each of the boys. Do you know what happened to George Smith? Were you present when George Smith went overboard? Did you kill George Smith?
Something crazy went down that night. And I hope one day that they find out the truth.
A 48 Hours investigation has uncovered failed polygraphs, questionable alibis, and a provocative video made by some of the men just hours after George Smith disappeared.
On the videotape, you've got them joking about George's death, very callous and at one point incriminating.
I just can't comprehend that someone could snatch my brother from a cruise ship, throw him on an overhang, and dies alone in the water, and then nothing's done about it. The evidence is huge. Why hasn't someone been arrested?
Sometimes you still think, he might be still out there, because we don't have a body. We don't have a body. It doesn't get any easier. And you know what? If we had our answers for George and know what happened, maybe. We don't know.
For 10 years, Maureen and George Smith have been tormented. They don't know what happened to their 26-year-old son aboard that cruise ship.
We have to just keep pushing the buttons, and we won't let it go. It's our son.
It wasn't supposed to be this way. George Smith IV had seemed destined to have it all.
Fine young man, handsome, hardworking. He was just an all-round great kid.
He was the funniest guy, you know. I would sit and have a couple beers with him, and he'd make me laugh for the whole night. And besides, he was so good looking, the girls just fell all over him. So it was a lot of fun. He was just a great guy.
George was about to take over his father's liquor store in Greenwich, Connecticut.
George made the store. He was much more of a lively guy than I and loved to talk, and he had that gusto in him, and he really wanted to take the store and build it.
Stop by today.
This is George working alongside his father in a local commercial.
He always called me the old man because I wasn't into modern tools and techniques like he was. So I was the old man. I was the dinosaur that he had to deal with.
George's future seemed even brighter when he met Jennifer Hagel, an aspiring school teacher.
I was overwhelmed with her because she had this dynamic personality. She was very fun-loving like him, very attractive, and he was very happy with her.
With this ring,
after a 3-year courtship,
I thee wed.
George and Jennifer were married in a ceremony overlooking the sea.
It was a really lavish affair in Newport, Rhode Island. It was a storybook wedding. It was absolutely beautiful.
George's older sister, Bree, remembers the day very well and how excited they were to go on their honeymoon.
They were so excited to be starting their life together, and they couldn't wait to start their cruise.
I can remember shaking his hand in the street and saying goodbye to him.
No one could ever imagine that just less than 2 weeks later, George would be missing.
In late June 2005, Royal Caribbean's Brilliance of the Seas set sail from Barcelona. The footage you see is from a sister ship. Fellow honeymooners Paul and Galina Kvitnitsky were on board with the Smiths.
We sat down next to one another, and since the first day we became acquainted.
The couples hit it off immediately.
They were really great. I mean, they were just very normal, down-to-earth, happy people.
I would say we spent a lot of time together.
They loved the sights. I remember they were taking a lot of pictures. Like, everywhere they went, they were, like, always with the camera.
And back on the ship, they socialized into the early morning hours.
I think he enjoyed himself a lot, you know, having a drink or two.
He didn't have a good tolerance for alcohol. Like, you could see he would have, like, 4 beers, and, you know, you could see that he was pretty much drunk.
Around midnight on July 5th, the two couples headed for the casino. It would be the last night of George's life. Jennifer, who's seen here on casino security cameras, spent much of her time at the blackjack table. And George, who was also captured on tape, headed for his usual spot at the craps table.
He was just having fun at the table, and you could see that right away.
George was soon joined at the table by another shipboard acquaintance, California college student Josh Askin. 48 Hours spoke to Josh in 2006.
Hung out with them for a little bit, nothing too in-depth. Jennifer played a little blackjack, I played a little craps with George. There were a lot of other people around as well who we'd met on the cruise so far.
And a group of Russian-American students were also making the rounds that night. Cousins Zachary and Greg Rosenberg and their friend Rusty Kaufman. Josh had met them on the cruise as well.
Everyone who was over 18 pretty much congregated in the casino. Everyone was in high spirits.
And George and Jennifer were high rolling. At one point, George, who's seen here at the casino with Josh, went back to his own cabin to get extra cash for Jennifer.
I think George looked prosperous. Additionally, had a really nice watch, which was a Breitling watch, was worth a bit of money.
And Bree Smith wonders if someone on the ship was getting the wrong idea about her brother.
People may have made assumptions that George was a millionaire, even though he wasn't.
And one thing that was clear to Paul that night was that by the time the casino closed, both Jennifer and George were already drunk.
And I just remember telling him, it's time to call it a night. It's time to call it a night.
Paul wishes his new friend had listened. 2 hours later, George Smith would be gone. As the sun rose over Kusadasi, Turkey on July 5, 2005, 16-year-old Emily Rausch stepped onto her balcony to snap some photos.
It was around 7:30 in the morning, and I noticed something on the overhang of the lifeboats.
Instead of a spectacular sunrise, Emily's camera captured this, a huge blood stain on the lifeboat canopy. This is Emily's account from back then.
I just assumed that someone had died there.
Security quickly determined the occupants of room 9062 were unaccounted for and snapped these pictures of the room. And then they began paging the Smiths.
I had a stateroom attendant outside my room, and I said, you know, you should probably go into that guy's room and wake him up because he's not going to hear that page, because he was probably still sleeping.
In another cabin, Paul and Galina were startled by a visit from ship personnel.
And that's when the guy came in and he said, have you seen George? And I'm like, what do you mean, have I seen George?
And we said, what's going on? And he kind of told us he's missing. We're like, missing?
By now, they had been summoned to guest relations. Jennifer was also there. She'd been located at the ship's spa, getting a scheduled massage. The crew soon delivered the crushing news that her new husband, George, was presumed overboard.
She just kept saying that she doesn't remember what happened. I can't remember, I can't understand, I don't remember.
Jennifer said she had almost no memory after leaving the casino, and that when she had awakened in the cabin, George wasn't there. She had just assumed George stayed with Paul and Galina.
She's shocked and panicked, and she doesn't understand what's going on. She just kept saying that, I want to call my dad, I want to call my dad.
Half a world away, in Connecticut, the Smiths were trying to absorb the shock from the call from Jennifer's dad.
It's disbelief. You know, we just couldn't believe it. He's got to be on the boat.
But the Smiths had not yet been told about that blood stain or the investigation now underway on the brilliance of the seas. Turkish police had boarded the ship. Royal Caribbean documented the forensic investigation. And in the ship's lobby, they rounded up Josh Askin and the group of Russian Americans, Rusty Kaufman and Zach and Greg Rosenberg. They had all partied with George the night before.
I just didn't know what was going on. I knew I did nothing wrong, and that's all that mattered to me.
This video, secretly recorded by Josh's father, shows the police interview. Rusty Kaufman on the right appears to be shocked when he hears about the blood. The video only captures snippets of what has emerged over the years as a very complex story, a story and a timeline that would be dissected and debated for years.
After we dropped them off, the second time, we closed the door, we never saw him. Never saw him again. End of story. I'm dead. Never saw him again.
The young men's account begins at 2:30 a.m. after the casino closed. It was on an elevator to the disco where Josh says he noticed some odd behavior from casino manager Lloyd Bota.
There was maybe a time when Lloyd, the casino manager, put his arm around Jennifer, and we thought a little awkward moment. It was just a little awkward for a second.
At the disco, the party was in full swing, and the guys smuggled in a bottle of a potent liquor called absinthe.
They were having shots of absinthe. They were having shots.
Albert Diane represents Rusty Kaufman. We spoke to him in 2006, and Diane says there was tension between George and Jennifer at the disco.
Rusty does not hear what is being said, but he does observe Jennifer kick George in his groin.
Jennifer stormed out of the disco, and according to Zach, Rusty, and Josh, the casino manager followed after her. Josh would emphatically make this point when questioned by Turkish police later.
She has no idea what happened. She was with another man, the casino manager boy. You need to get him in here.
The men claim they didn't know where Lloyd and Jennifer went, but by 3:30 a.m., the disco was closing, and George was in bad shape.
George was kind of slumped over in a chair. I asked my buddies, will you help me take him home real quick?
When they are walking to the cabin, they are literally carrying George.
At 3:52 a.m., the guys entered the Smiths' cabin. The ship's key entry log records the time, but Jennifer is not there.
Did you see her? No, she wasn't in the room.
George all of a sudden expresses a wish to go search for his wife. And at this time, the boys are having a loud discussion, debate about whether they should go and assist George.
The group heads out again, and after a brief search of the ship's solarium, they return George to his cabin at 4:01 a.m.
I went to the restroom right when we went in. I probably saw him for like a minute, 30 seconds.
They actually lay George on his bed, take off his shoes, and he displays a tremendous gratitude towards these young men. In fact, he hugs and kisses one or two of these young men.
And that was the end of it. But just remember, not at one point or no time did he ever seem angry or anything at all.
But shortly after 4 a.m., passenger Cleet Hyman, a vacationing deputy police chief, hears a disturbance next door.
My wife and I were awakened by yelling coming from the Smith cabin. This yelling sounded what I would liken to a drinking game.
A few minutes later,
suddenly, though, there was an argument out on the Smith balcony. This argument appeared to be between 3, maybe 4 male individuals.
But Rusty's lawyer insists that the men never went out on the balcony.
After about 2 minutes of the argument, we heard one lone male voice repeatedly say, good night, like they were ushering someone out of the room. I looked out and saw 3 male individuals walking away from the room.
3 males walking away? Then where was the 4th man? Diane insists all 4 men left together.
Rusty is a pretty wide type of young man. I believe that the witness just failed to observe the 4th one.
What Cleet Hyman hears next would become the subject of endless speculation. Was George alone in the room?
At this point, we heard just a lone male voice in the room. We heard what sounded like the cupboard doors being closed loudly, and also sounded like furniture being moved.
Greg and Pat Lawyer, in the cabin on the other side of the Smiths, hear something similar.
There was what I call trashing of the room sounds. I thought somebody was throwing furniture around, either mad or having a good time, so we dismissed it at that point.
After about 2 minutes of total silence, however, there was a large, what I would call a horrific thud.
That thud is believed to be the sound of George Smith hitting the metal canopy at around 4:30 a.m. About that same time, Jennifer is found passed out in a hallway. As for the men, they say they were all back in their cabin, ordering a lion's share of room service.
Yeah, room service. We ordered room service.
They were definitely in their own cabin, in Zach's and Rusty's cabin, ordering food at that time.
But as it would turn out, the young men's alibi would be called into question.
It doesn't hold up at all.
As the details surrounding George Smith's disappearance emerged, so had speculation about his bride, Jennifer.
Was George murdered? Was Jennifer somehow involved?
The widow went on Oprah to defend herself.
Not only to lose your memory, but then to have nobody believe you. I don't know what happened.
And Jennifer wasn't the only one in the spotlight.
Tucker, what about the Ruskies in this story, the Russians? What are these three guys hanging around a honeymoon couple
Well, I
for?
mean, obviously. Did he fall overboard? Was he pushed overboard? They found this big blood stain.
It's a CSI story that keeps unfolding by the day.
The FBI would begin an investigation that would span 9.5 years. At the time, the ship's captain described it as a likely accident, theorizing that an intoxicated George sat on the railing and simply fell off. The Smiths never bought the accident theory.
The blood is compelling evidence. There was blood in the room.
Photographs taken by Royal Caribbean inside the Smith cabin revealed 2 small lines of blood on the bed sheets. The Smiths say it was George's blood, and another sign pointing to foul play.
In addition to the blood, there were sounds of a fight, a struggle inside my brother's room.
The Smiths hoped that getting access to Royal Caribbean's investigative case files would provide some answers.
So that shows the room.
And they brought on attorney Mike Jones to help them.
Then you got the blood spot. Yeah. What it's not about is an accident, and what it's not about is a suicide. It's about a murder.
Jones immediately got to work, setting his sights on the ship's documents and the 4 men last seen with George.
I took Josh Askin's deposition first.
Do you know if George Smith was murdered?
Invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
Do you know who killed George Smith?
Invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
That's a yes or no answer.
Josh Askin took the Fifth.
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
On everything.
My Fifth Amendment right. My Fifth Amendment right. My Fifth Amendment right.
In late June of 2005, did you go on a Royal Caribbean cruise with your family?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
I had him take the Fifth as to his date of birth, his name.
Attorney Keith Greer represents Josh Askin.
And so I told him the only way we're going to do this, Josh, is if every single question you're asked, you plead the Fifth.
Greer says that Josh has always been cooperative, speaking freely to everyone, but there came a point when he had to shut him down because the feds were getting aggressive.
And they have told us that if Josh ever says anything that is different than what he said before in the grand jury, anything, they will fly him back to Connecticut on perjury charges. I couldn't have that happen.
Attorney Albert Diane says Rusty Kaufman got the same treatment and has stopped cooperating with the FBI.
And the more he wanted to speak with them, the more he wanted to tell them what happened, the more they accused him of foul play.
That's the truth.
I do.
During his deposition, Rusty Kaufman didn't plead the Fifth, but his memory on a lot of things seemed a bit rusty.
When you say we put him to bed, who put him in the bed?
I don't have a recollection of that right now.
Josh said that he actually used the bathroom at that point. Do you remember that?
I don't have a recollection of that.
Okay. Morning, Zachary. My name is Michael Jones.
Zachary Rosenberg also invoked his right against self-incrimination.
Was there any commotion in the room?
I'd like to invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
The only one who appeared forthcoming was Greg Rosenberg. In 2010, Mike Jones found him in a Florida prison.
Why are you here in prison?
Trafficking.
Greg was serving 3 years for trafficking in oxycodone. He says to support his expensive taste.
Clothes. I'm a fanatic for clothes, jewelry, watches. That's why I'm in here, man.
Murder's a different deal.
Murder's a different deal, man. I don't have it in my heart to kill nobody, man.
Did you have anything to do with George's death?
No, never did. Never would, never thought about it, no.
Greg brought up that room service party.
All right, what'd you eat? Tuna fish sandwiches, I know that. We had like tuna fish sandwiches and I think cheeseburgers. I know we had something that fast food type. We were infatuated with the fact that we could order whatever we want.
They ordered so much food and they couldn't have killed George because they were in the room eating the room service. I mean, it's a nice story, but it doesn't work.
In 2010, Mike Jones finally got his hands on those Royal Caribbean internal documents.
The room service party is pretty much blown by the information we got from Royal Caribbean. I mean, that's a big fact.
The ship's records show that although several short calls were made from Zach and Rusty's cabin to room service after 4:13 a.m., there is no record of any order of any kind.
The handwritten records show that the room service was never delivered.
Was it human error they didn't write it down?
Keith Greer insists the room service party did take place, but it was never really an alibi to begin with, since the food would have been delivered after George went missing.
The food service itself doesn't prove that they were in a certain place at the time George went over, because George goes over about 4:20 in the morning. So at that point in time, really the only alibi they have is each other.
If the ship's records raise some questions about where the men say they were that night, they also cast doubt on where they implied Jennifer was. Remember the casino manager the guys said she left with at the disco?
She was with another man. The casino manager boy.
And that didn't happen. That just didn't happen.
Other witnesses say Lloyd did not leave with Jennifer, and key records show that he entered his girlfriend's cabin at 3:25 a.m. while the Smiths were still in the disco.
And he had gone to his girlfriend's room, and she was able to corroborate that. So I think Lloyd became the victim of this attempt by the Russians and by Josh Askin to deflect attention from themselves.
As for Jennifer, several witnesses saw her leave the disco alone and unsteady at 3:30 a.m.
There are some witnesses from the cruise ship employees that actually escorted her onto the elevator and tried to help her get off the elevator on her floor before she ended up going the wrong way on deck 9.
An hour later, Jennifer was found passed out in that hallway around the time George went overboard. Lloyd Bota and Jennifer both passed FBI polygraphs.
People that the Russians and Josh were pointing fingers at both came through very cleanly on their polygraphs.
The 4 men are still on the FBI's radar, and the discovery of a homemade videotape only raises more suspicion.
It's ridiculously provocative. Unfortunately, obviously, after 8 years, this has become pretty much a cold case.
For the last few years, Mike Jones has been trying to reignite a case he believes has gone cold in the Connecticut FBI office.
And if you talk to the FBI, they'll say it's active and open, but I don't really believe that.
And Jones also doesn't believe the account of the 4 young men last seen with George Smith.
When you left George in his bed, all you guys left. No one stayed behind.
Nobody stayed behind. We all left.
There's a lot of evidence to suggest that it was not as simple as the Russian men and as Josh have said. You look at the behavior of these young men. They're not good boys or good Samaritans.
Royal Caribbean documents show complaints were made against some of the men for smoking, sneaking liquor, and verbally abusing ship employees.
They were dropping F-bombs on the room service people.
And 2 days after George Smith went overboard, an 18-year-old passenger came forward with a major allegation of sexual assault.
She stated that she was in one of the Russians' rooms and that there was group sex with her, with some of the Russians.
In the woman's statement, she says she was completely intoxicated and in between blackouts, remembers having non-consensual sex with Greg Rosenberg, Rusty Kaufman, and Jeffrey Rosenberg, Zach Rosenberg's younger brother.
And they actually videotaped the group sex. And the fact that they videotaped themselves doing this, I mean, who does that?
Rusty's lawyer says the sex was consensual.
That whole escapade was non-criminal in nature. The tape itself revealed that.
Josh's lawyer, Keith Greer, says Josh did not have sex with the young woman, but he was there.
Josh walks into the room, and there's one of the Russian boys having sex on the bed with the girl, and another one of the boys filming it. And Josh was concerned. It became clear to him very quickly that the boys weren't taking advantage of her. The girl was taking advantage of the boys.
Before he left CBS News to rejoin the New York City Police Department, John Miller investigated the case for 48 hours.
People who have seen that videotape have told me that the person holding the camera is doing kind of a narration and asking her questions, and she's responding to them, but as this continues, she's crying.
I haven't heard anything about any crying from anyone.
Royal Caribbean had had enough and rounded up all of the young men and their families for a tense meeting with the ship's lawyer. Josh Askin's father was, again, recording.
The FBI has asked us to detain your sons. We're going to have to ask you to have your sons go to their cabins, and they're going to have to remain there.
The group angrily denied the allegations.
They're ready for the lawsuit.
Quiet! This is live. Everything is live. Okay.
The four men and their families were then removed from the ship in Naples, where Italian police looked into the rape allegation and washed their hands of it, saying they had no jurisdiction. No one has ever been charged in the sexual incident, and lawyers for the men believe the tape saved them.
But for that tape, they could have been charged for something that they did not commit.
But that tape may come back to haunt them. The tape in the FBI's possession contained something else, a lunch meeting filmed by the Russian Americans just hours after George went overboard. Josh Askin was not present.
They pass a video camera around, filming themselves, commenting about George's death in a very callous way. And they're laughing and joking very callously about him being wealthy. And certainly the way they were talking, they either knew or they had a pretty good sense of what had happened.
A source close to the investigation has told CBS News that on the tape, one of the men, Rusty Kaufman, refers to George going parachute riding off his balcony. It is not an admission, but it is, at the very least, provocative. And there's more.
The really sort of incriminating statement is one of them stands up at the end of the tape and sort of hunches his shoulders and flashes gang signs and says, "Told you I was gangsta." And that's in the context of the discussion about George's death, almost as if he's bragging about having done something to George.
Jones says that young man was Greg Rosenberg.
I just don't understand how the FBI could have had this tape in their possession and still we sit here. Get the guys in there, question them.
Lawyers for Zach Rosenberg and Rusty Kaufman declined to comment on the video. In the spring of 2013, John Miller tried to see if Rusty himself could provide any more answers.
There's a statement made on videotape where you say George went parachute riding off his balcony.
I have no comment. Please contact my lawyer and then we can arrange a time to speak.
Greg Rosenberg's lawyer says Greg didn't know George was dead at that point and that his client was just making a stupid comment.
I don't think they're kidding around. It's just not something you would just come out and say you're kidding around, because if you didn't do it, why would you be saying it?
But if George was murdered, the question has always been why. Mike Jones believes there is finally enough evidence to piece it all together.
The first thing you look at is motive, okay? George and Jennifer dressed well. George had a very expensive Breitling watch. They sort of flashed the money in the casino.
What's more, witnesses heard George and Jennifer saying they had thousands of dollars in their cabin.
And this got around because there were other passengers not within the circle of the Russians and Josh who heard the rumors about the money in the cabin. We don't believe it was true, but perception is everything.
Jones believes that perception fueled a robbery attempt, one that was hatched when they put George to bed and Josh had gone into the bathroom.
The theory would be that they were arguing about whether or not one of them or two of them should stay behind and see if they could find the money and take the watch, because George was in no position to argue or to put up a fight.
That arguing, Mike believes, is what Clete Hyman heard on the balcony. Jones also believes his theory fits with what Hyman saw, just 3 men leaving.
And one of them stays behind, starts to rifle through the drawers and the cabinets.
He has a possible explanation for the blood stain.
The blood is on the sheets. The blood is in 2 sort of centimeter-long splashes. And almost looks like if you were taking off a watch and you pinched your skin, it would be compatible with the blood splatter that was on the bed. While they're doing that, George wakes up, says, "What are you doing?" A fight ensues, which is consistent with the noises that people on both sides of the cabin heard. And George goes overboard. Other people hear the loud thud.
Josh Askin's lawyer, Keith Greer, argues that is all nothing more than speculation.
Even Clete Hyman, he even said that he did not hear the sounds that you would expect if there was a fight. You know, you dirty so-and-so, the smacking, the kicking and stumbling and yelling of 2 guys going at each other in a fist fight. I just don't think it makes sense.
Greer thinks that there's a simpler explanation for all that took place aboard the Brilliance of the Seas, the sex assault claim and George going overboard.
I don't know why everybody's missing the theme here, because there's one common element, and it's too much alcohol. And we can go and, you know, blame it on murder and blame it on aggressive sexual behavior here. You know what? It's just everybody drinking too much and stupid stuff happening. That fits.
But does it fit with what Josh Askin was heard saying on an elevator? Mike Jones is a persistent man, and he believes his persistence will one day pay off.
It's just a question of pulling together enough evidence to get an indictment and a conviction.
Jones and the Smiths maintain the key to solving the case lies in California.
Our theory is that Josh Askin knows what happened, but we don't believe that Josh was involved in the actual, tossing of George overboard.
To support his theory, Jones is pointing to an intriguing clue uncovered by Royal Caribbean. A ship employee overheard Josh Askin speaking to a friend on an elevator.
He said, "I know more than they think I know. Those almost got me arrested in Turkey."
Keith Greer argues the comments were taken out of context, and Josh has nothing to hide.
Do you think that Josh Askin has told you everything he knows?
Absolutely. No doubt.
But Greer admits the FBI told Josh he failed a polygraph. Greer questions the test and the result.
I think it's another rubber hose ploy, where just to freak Josh out and upset him more. I think it was just the psychological war that they were waging on him and his family, or they didn't take the time to do it right, one or the other.
Sources tell CBS News Rusty Kaufman also was tested, and he too failed.
Yes, ma'am.
Greg Rosenberg was administered a private polygraph test.
I took a polygraph.
You did take one?
Yeah, it was inconclusive because I'm ADHD, because you could tell I like to move a lot. It was inconclusive. There ain't no lies that I need to tell.
Generally, it's much easier to tell the actual lie on your own.
48 Hours decided to bring in Phil Houston, a former CIA case officer who for more than 2 decades specialized in detecting deception. We asked him to take a closer look at those depositions.
Is there anybody of the group that particularly jumps out?
That's the honest truth.
Greg stands out above and beyond everyone. There was just a ton of deceptive behaviors.
You can't judge a book by its cover.
In Houston's opinion, it's not what Greg Rosenberg says that seems deceptive. It is often what he doesn't say.
What we should hear and see his focus on is, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. You got the wrong guy. Instead, we don't. Where we hear his focus so many times are reasons why he wouldn't do this.
But in no way, shape, or form would I ever do anything like that to an individual. No reason. That's not me.
And it appears some questions are more difficult for Greg than others.
Did they find anything in either room that was connected to George's disappearance?
He hesitates. He's clearly thinking. The question has thrown him for a loop. It's almost, what could they have found that would have connected someone to the disappearance?
No.
Okay.
No,
Did they
of course
say-
not.
And then it's like, as he thinks through it, he realizes, I've got to answer the question. So he goes, well, no.
So he's thinking about something that is not going to come out in his answer.
That's correct. That's correct. Something he's not sharing.
But Greg doesn't hold back on the one thing the Smiths would agree with. He says George's death was no accident.
George Allen Smith did not disappear or kill himself or hurt himself or slip and fall off a boat at 6'4" or however tall he is and just dive off. I know that didn't happen. Something crazy went down that night. And I hope one day that they find out the truth.
In the years following George's death, Jennifer has remarried and tried to move on. But for the Smiths, it's not so easy. In 2014, they announced they are offering a reward, $100,000, for information that leads directly to the arrest and conviction of whoever is responsible.
We're hoping with this $100,000 reward, this might just be the thing that we need to get the arrest, to get the convictions.
Until the day this case is solved, the Smiths vow not to let George's memory die on that ship.
That's right. There you go, Georgie.
We'll get justice,
We'll get justice.
somehow.
Somehow we'll get justice for George. Somebody will talk. And shame on them that don't. Shame on the people that have put us through this hell.
On January 9th, 2015, the Smith family suffered yet another blow. The FBI announced they were officially closing the case on George Smith.
The FBI has determined that there is not sufficient evidence to continue the investigation.
When we were called in for the meeting that finally closed the case down, it was just devastating to my family.
How do you collect 97,000 pages of an investigation to determine, after almost 10 years, that an accident may have occurred?
Still, the family stands by that $100,000 reward, and they still believe it was murder.
The money that was going to be left to George, we thought that since he wasn't going to be here to get that money, somebody else could use it to help our family.
We're hoping to generate more leads with the reward, and we're hoping the FBI will reopen the investigation.
But the toll is great.
I never expected to be 67 and still sitting here trying to get answers from my son. It's sad. We should be on with our life, but we're not.
They could say there's no conclusive evidence. They could shut down the investigation, but they're not going to shut down me, and I'm going to continue until there is answers and justice for George.